Skattebo thought he had the perfect moment. Cameras rolling, audience watching, and Shedeur Sanders sitting right there. So he went for it, called him broke. Right there on live TV. The room felt it immediately. That uncomfortable silence when someone takes things too far. But what Cam didn't know was that his little comment would reach the ears of the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. And when Tom Brady decided to respond, he didn't just defend Shedeur. He completely dismantled everything Cam thought he knew about money, value, and what it actually means to be successful in the modern NFL. The 7-time Super Bowl champion came with receipts, numbers that made Cam's comment look absolutely ridiculous, facts that exposed just how uninformed that statement really was. By the time Brady finished speaking, the entire NFL world was talking. Not about Cam's trash talk skills, not about his running ability. They were talking about how badly he embarrassed himself in front of millions of people. What started as a streamer event turned into one of the most brutal reality checks we've seen in years. And trust me, what Brady revealed about Shedeur's actual worth will leave you speechless. The energy in that room was electric from the moment everyone walked in. Picture this. Some of the biggest rising stars in football all gathered together for what was supposed to be a fun, laid-back streamer event. The organizers had put together $5,000 for set decorations and food. Nothing too crazy, but enough to create a vibe where these athletes could relax and just be themselves for a few hours. Micah Parsons was in the building. The Dallas Cowboys' defensive superstar brought his usual intensity, but in a playful way. Shedeur Sanders was there too, adding that Sanders family presence that always draws attention. And of course, Shedeur Sanders himself, fresh off being drafted and ready to show the world what he could do at the professional level. The guest list read like a who's who of young NFL talent, guys who were either already making waves or about to take the league by storm. The conversations started light, typical athlete banter about who was faster, who had the better highlights, who was going to have the breakout season. Cameras were rolling everywhere, capturing every laugh, every joke, every moment of camaraderie between these competitors. Social media was going to eat this up. That was the whole point. Create content, build connections, give fans a glimpse behind the curtain of what these players are like when they're not on the field. The trash talk was flowing naturally. That's just how athletes communicate. You throw jabs at each other, test boundaries, see who can take it and who dishes it back best. It's almost like a sport within itself. And everyone there understood the rules. Keep it competitive, but keep it friendly. Make it entertaining, but don't cross certain lines. Food was being passed around. Jokes about the decoration budget sparked some laughs. Someone made a comment about balloons, which got the whole room going. The atmosphere was exactly what you'd want from this kind of gathering. Loose, fun, authentic. These weren't corporate robots reading scripts. These were young men enjoying each other's company while building content that their fans would love. But underneath all that positive energy, there was something else brewing. See, when you put competitive athletes in a room together, egos are always present. Most of the time, those egos stay in check. The playful jabs stay playful. The competition remains friendly. But every once in a while, someone decides to take things to a different level. Someone decides that the normal rules don't apply to them. Someone looks at a situation and thinks they see an opportunity to establish dominance. That someone was Skattebo. Now, for those who don't know, Skattebo made a name for himself at Arizona State. Solid running back with decent production. The kind of player who gets attention but isn't exactly a household name outside of college football circles. He came into that room with something to prove. Maybe he felt overlooked compared to some of the bigger names present. Maybe he wanted to create a viral moment that would get people talking about him. Whatever his reasoning, he was about to make a decision that would follow him for a very long time. The room dynamic was interesting because you had different levels of stardom present. You had guys like Micah Parsons, who had already established themselves as elite talents. You had the Sanders brothers, who came with built-in celebrity status thanks to their father's legendary career. And then you had players like Skattebo, who were still trying to carve out their place in the football world. In environments like this, hierarchy matters even when nobody talks about it directly. Everyone knows who the stars are. Everyone knows who's still proving themselves. And the unwritten rule is that you respect the pecking order until you've earned the right to challenge it. You don't come at someone above your weight class unless you're ready for the consequences. The cameras kept rolling as the conversations continued. Nobody suspected that things were about to take a sharp turn. The energy was still positive, still fun, still exactly what the organizers had hoped for. Shedeur was engaging with everyone naturally, showing that easy charisma that made him such a marketable prospect. He wasn't trying to dominate the room or prove anything. He was just being himself. That's when Skattebo saw his opening, or at least what he thought was an opening. Something in the conversation shifted toward money, contracts, draft positions, normal topics for professional athletes who just went through the biggest moment of their careers. Everyone was sharing stories, comparing notes, discussing the business side of football. The setup seemed innocent enough, just another thread in the conversation tapestry that had been weaving throughout the event. But Cam had other plans. He'd been waiting for this moment, calculating his approach, ready to deliver what he thought would be a knockout blow that would establish him as the alpha in the room. What he didn't realize was that he was about to step into territory he fundamentally didn't understand. He was about to challenge someone whose financial situation made his own look laughable in comparison. He was about to create a moment that would define him, just not in the way he wanted. The room was still buzzing with conversation when Skattebo decided to make his move. He looked directly at Shedeur Sanders with an expression that wasn't playful anymore. The energy shifted before he even opened his mouth. People who were mid-conversation stopped talking. Something was about to happen. Then he said it. 2 words that would echo across the entire sports world within hours. "You're broke," just like that. No build-up. No context that would make it seem like a joke. He said it with conviction, with that tone that suggested he genuinely believed what he was saying. He referenced Shedeur being a 5th-round draft pick as if that settled the argument. As if where someone gets selected automatically determines their entire financial worth. The implication was crystal clear to everyone in that room. Cam was saying that because Shedeur wasn't a 1st-round pick, he didn't have real money. He was suggesting that 5th-round contracts meant 5th-rate bank accounts. He was trying to diminish someone's entire value based on a single data point that he clearly didn't understand. The room went uncomfortably quiet. That silence when everybody collectively realizes somebody just crossed a line they shouldn't have crossed. People exchanged glances. Some looked down at their phones, suddenly very interested in whatever was on their screens. Others just watched, waiting to see how this would unfold. But here's what made this moment particularly revealing about Skattebo's character. He didn't read the room. He didn't notice that nobody was laughing with him. He didn't pick up on the social cues that should have told him he'd made a serious miscalculation. Instead, he seemed pleased with himself, proud of the shot he'd just taken, confident that he'd scored some kind of victory. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders did something that surprised everyone. He didn't fire back immediately. He didn't get loud or aggressive. He didn't try to match Cam's energy with defensive posturing. Instead, he gave this look. This calm, measured, almost amused expression that communicated more than any words could have. And then he smiled. But it wasn't a friendly smile. It wasn't the kind of smile you give when someone tells a good joke. This was the smile of someone who knows something the other person doesn't. The smile of quiet confidence. The smile that says you've just revealed how little you actually understand about this situation. That smile was devastating in its subtlety. Because while Cam stood there waiting for Shedeur to crumble or get defensive, Shedeur remained completely composed. He didn't give Cam the reaction he was fishing for. He didn't provide any ammunition for further attacks. He just sat there, radiating the kind of unbothered energy that comes from genuine security. The people in that room who knew anything about Shedeur's actual financial situation were probably trying not to laugh out loud. Because what Cam had just done was expose his own ignorance in spectacular fashion. He'd made a bold claim about something he clearly hadn't researched. He'd attacked someone on territory where he himself was vastly outgunned. Let's break down why that comment was so fundamentally wrong. Cam looked at Shedeur's draft position and made assumptions. 5th round means small contract. Small contract means no money, simple math in his mind. But that simple math ignored literally everything else about how modern athletes build wealth. Draft position determines your rookie contract ceiling. That's true, but it doesn't determine your endorsement value. It doesn't determine your nil earnings from college. It doesn't determine your social media monetization. It doesn't determine your brand partnership potential. And it certainly doesn't determine the business acumen someone has developed over years of watching their father build an empire. Cam was thinking like someone who only understands one income stream: salary. He forgot, or never knew, that players like Shedeur Sanders had been building financial portfolios since before they were legally adults. He didn't consider that being the son of Deion Sanders meant exposure to wealth-building strategies that most athletes never learn. The comment also revealed something troubling about how Cam viewed the quarterback position versus his own. Running backs in today's NFL are notoriously undervalued. Their careers are shorter. Their contracts are smaller relative to other positions. Their market appeal is limited compared to quarterbacks who become the face of franchises. So here was a running back, from a position with historically poor financial outcomes, trying to call a quarterback broke. The irony was thick enough to cut with a knife. Quarterbacks command the highest salaries in football. They attract the biggest endorsement deals. They have the longest careers and the most sustainable earning potential. Everything about the position comparison favored Shedeur, but Cam didn't think about any of that. He saw an opportunity to create a viral moment at someone else's expense, and he took it without doing any homework first. He assumed that his college stats and local fame gave him the credibility to question another man's finances on live television. What he actually did was set the stage for one of the most embarrassing reality checks in recent sports media history. Because his comment didn't just stay in that room. It went viral. It spread across social media platforms. It reached millions of people. And most importantly, it reached Tom Brady. To truly understand why Cam Skattebo's comment was so laughably off base, you need to understand who Shedeur Sanders actually is. Not the surface-level stuff that casual fans might know. The real story behind one of the most prepared, most scrutinized, and most business-savvy young athletes to enter professional football in years. Shedeur Sanders grew up in a household where excellence wasn't optional. His father is Deion Sanders, one of the greatest athletes to ever live. A man who dominated both the NFL and Major League Baseball. A two-sport professional who won Super Bowls and earned more money than most people can comprehend. Growing up watching that kind of success leaves an imprint on a child that goes far beyond just athletic inspiration. From a very young age, Shedeur understood that being a professional athlete meant being a brand. He watched his father navigate endorsement deals, media obligations, and business ventures. He saw firsthand how Deion turned athletic excellence into generational wealth. He absorbed lessons about negotiation, self-promotion, and financial planning that most people don't learn until they're well into their adult careers. When Shedeur started playing football seriously, the spotlight was already on him. Being the son of prime time meant every throw was analyzed, every performance was compared, every decision was questioned. Critics were eager to claim he was overhyped because of his father's name. Supporters argued he had legitimate talent independent of his family legacy. Either way, he couldn't escape the microscope. His college career started at Jackson State, where his father had taken over as head coach. The move itself was controversial. Some saw it as nepotism. Others saw it as a father and son chasing a dream together while elevating an HBCU program to national prominence. Whatever your take, the results spoke for themselves. Shedeur played extremely well and helped put Jackson State football on the map in ways it hadn't been in decades. Then came the move to Colorado. When Deion Sanders accepted the head coaching job at the University of Colorado, Shedeur followed. Once again, the critics lined up with their hot takes. Could he succeed at a Power 5 program? Was he only effective in his father's system? Would the increased competition expose him as a product of favorable circumstances? What happened instead was Shedeur proving every doubter wrong. He put up numbers that demanded attention. He showed arm talent, decision-making ability, and leadership qualities that NFL scouts couldn't ignore. His performances weren't just good for someone playing under his father. They were legitimately impressive by any standard. But here's where Shedeur's story diverges from typical college star trajectories. While he was dominating on the field, he was also building an empire off of it. The nil era had arrived at the perfect time for someone with his profile. Name, image, and likeness rights meant college athletes could finally monetize their popularity. And few college athletes had more popularity to monetize than the son of Deion Sanders. Shedeur's nil deals during college were substantial. We're talking about estimated earnings between $4 and $6 million before he ever played a professional snap. He secured partnerships with major brands like Beats by Dre, establishing himself as someone companies wanted to associate with. These weren't charity deals given because of his father's connections. These were legitimate business arrangements based on Shedeur's own marketability. His social media presence became another revenue stream. With over 4 million Instagram followers and a massive TikTok presence, Shedeur had direct access to the demographic that brands desperately want to reach. Every post had value. Every piece of content was an opportunity. He understood this and leveraged it effectively. The scrutiny never let up, though. Even as he succeeded, critics kept moving the goalposts. Okay, he's good in college, but can he handle the NFL? Sure, he has endorsements, but does he have real talent? The questions kept coming, each one designed to diminish what he was accomplishing. Through all of it, Shedeur maintained a remarkably level head. He didn't engage with every critic. He didn't waste energy on people determined to dislike him. He focused on what he could control: his preparation, his performance, his business decisions. Everything else was just noise. His draft process was another exercise in handling pressure. Some analysts praised him as a future franchise quarterback. Others questioned his arm strength, his pocket presence, his ability to succeed without his father's coaching. The debates raged across sports media for months. When draft day finally came, Shedeur went in the 5th round to the Cleveland Browns. To people like Skattebo, that 5th-round selection apparently meant Shedeur was somehow lesser, somehow broke, somehow not on the level of higher drafted players. What those people failed to understand was that Shedeur's draft position was just one small piece of a much larger puzzle. His value wasn't determined by what slot he went in. His value was built over years of strategic positioning, brand building, and financial planning that started long before anyone was discussing mock drafts. The young man who sat in that room while Skattebo called him broke had already earned more money than most NFL veterans see in their entire careers. He had endorsement deals, equity positions, and revenue-sharing agreements that created multiple income streams. His financial situation wasn't just secure, it was exceptional. Let's talk about actual numbers, real figures that expose just how uninformed Skattebo's comment actually was. Because when you look at what Shedeur Sanders has built financially, the idea of calling him broke becomes almost comical. Start with the basics. Shedeur's rookie contract with the Cleveland Browns is worth approximately $4.5 million over 4 years. Now, to most people, that's life-changing money. But in the context of NFL quarterback contracts, it's on the lower end because of his draft position. This is probably what Cam was thinking about when he made his comment. 5th-round pick equals smaller guaranteed money, but here's what Cam clearly didn't consider. That rookie contract represents maybe 10% of Shedeur's actual earning potential, maybe less, because the other 90% comes from everything happening off the football field. During his college career, Shedeur accumulated nil earnings estimated between $4 and $6 million. Let that sink in for a moment. Before he ever cashed an NFL paycheck, he had already earned more than many professional athletes make in their entire careers. These weren't small brand deals either. These were partnerships with established companies who saw real value in associating with the Shedeur Sanders brand. Beats by Dre brought him into their family of endorsers. When you think about the athletes and celebrities who represent Beats, you're thinking about elite names with massive cultural influence. Shedeur earned his spot in that group through a combination of on-field success and off-field marketability. The deal terms weren't publicly disclosed, but industry insiders suggest it was significant enough to be considered major for a college athlete. His Gatorade partnership added another revenue stream. Gatorade doesn't just sponsor anyone. They carefully select athletes who represent their brand values and have the potential for long-term relevance. Shedeur's deal with them signals that one of the biggest sports beverage companies in the world sees him as a worthwhile investment. Then there's Tom Ford. A luxury fashion brand partnering with a college quarterback might seem unusual until you understand Shedeur's broader appeal. He's not just an athlete, he's a lifestyle figure. His style, his presence, his social media content all contribute to an image that luxury brands want to align with. The Tom Ford relationship opened doors into a world of high-end fashion endorsements that most athletes never access. But the endorsement deals only tell part of the story. What really separates Shedeur from typical young athletes is his understanding of equity and ownership. He grew up watching his father build businesses, not just collect paychecks. He learned early that true wealth comes from owning things, not just being paid for services. Reports suggest that Shedeur has negotiated equity positions in several of his partnerships. Instead of simply taking guaranteed payments up front, he secured ownership stakes that could appreciate significantly over time. This is sophisticated financial thinking that most professional athletes don't develop until they're well into their careers, if ever. His jersey sales projections are another indicator of his market value. Analysts expect Shedeur to be among the top jersey sellers as a rookie quarterback. That might sound like just a popularity metric, but in today's NFL, jersey sales translate directly into revenue sharing. Players receive a percentage of merchandise sales, and quarterbacks with cultural relevance can earn substantial income from fans wanting to wear their names. Social media monetization represents yet another income stream. With over 4 million Instagram followers and a significant TikTok presence, Shedeur has direct access to the Gen Z demographic that brands desperately want to reach. Every sponsored post has value. Every brand partnership multiplied by his massive reach creates earning opportunities that didn't exist for previous generations of athletes. The Sanders family brand itself carries weight that translates into dollars. Being associated with Deion Sanders, one of the most recognizable figures in sports history, opens doors that would be closed to other rookies. Companies know that signing Shedeur means potential access to the broader Sanders family narrative, which has proven entertainment and marketing value. Now let's put this in perspective by looking at Skattebo's financial situation. As a running back, he faces a market that historically undervalues his position. Running back contracts have been declining relative to other positions for years. Teams view the position as replaceable, which suppresses earning potential. Skattebo's endorsement portfolio doesn't compare to Shedeur's. His social media following is a fraction of what Shedeur commands. His cultural influence barely registers outside of Arizona state fan circles. His long-term earning potential is significantly limited by the position he plays. So when you actually examine the numbers, calling Shedeur broke is like someone with $100 in their checking account mocking someone with $1 million in diversified investments. The comparison isn't even close. It's not in the same universe. Industry estimates suggest that Shedeur's total pre-NFL earnings, combined with his endorsement portfolio, place his net worth somewhere between $8 and $12 million. Some analysts project it could be higher depending on undisclosed deal terms. Either way, we're talking about generational wealth already accumulated before his professional football career has truly begun. The business empire that Skattebo didn't know about represents years of strategic planning, careful brand building, and sophisticated financial thinking. It represents lessons learned from watching one of the greatest self-marketers in sports history. It represents opportunities maximized at every turn. And it represents exactly why Shedeur could afford to just smile when someone called him broke on live television. When Tom Brady decides to speak on something, people listen. This isn't just any former player offering commentary. This is the greatest quarterback in NFL history. 7 Super Bowl championships, 5 Super Bowl MVP awards, career statistics that may never be matched. When Brady talks about football, finances, or life in general, his words carry weight that few people in sports can match. So when the clip of Skattebo calling Shedeur Sanders broke started circulating, it was only a matter of time before it reached Brady's attention. The sports media ecosystem moves fast, and anything involving controversy, trash talk, and young NFL players tends to spread rapidly across platforms. Brady's response wasn't immediate. He's not the type to react impulsively to every piece of content that crosses his feed. But when he did decide to address it, he didn't hold anything back. The measured, calculated approach he was known for during his playing career translated into a systematic dismantling of everything Skattebo had implied. What made Brady's decision to speak up significant was the context of his own career. Here's a man who was drafted 199th overall in the 6th round. A man who was told repeatedly that his draft position meant he didn't belong among elite players. A man who spent over 2 decades proving that where you get selected means absolutely nothing compared to what you do with your opportunity. If anyone understood how wrong Cam's comment was, it was Tom Brady. He'd lived that narrative. He'd fought against those assumptions his entire career. Every time someone tried to use his draft position against him, he responded with excellence. Every time someone questioned his value, he added another championship to his resume. So when Brady saw a young quarterback being diminished based on draft position, it hit personal. This wasn't just about defending Shedeur Sanders specifically. This was about challenging a mindset that Brady knew from experience was fundamentally flawed and harmful. Brady's initial comments addressed the premise of Cam's argument directly. He pointed out that using draft position to determine someone's financial worth shows a complete misunderstanding of how the modern NFL economy works. The game has evolved. The business has evolved. Players now have more earning opportunities than ever before, and most of those opportunities have nothing to do with what round they were selected in. The passion in Brady's response was noticeable. This wasn't corporate speak or diplomatic dodging. He was genuinely bothered by what he'd witnessed. He called the comment embarrassing and suggested it revealed more about Cam Skattebo's ignorance than anything about Shedeur Sanders' actual situation. Brady went on to discuss the broader implications of what Cam had done. By trying to diminish Shedeur's value based on draft position, Cam was disrespecting the quarterback position itself. He was perpetuating a narrative that Brady had personally spent his entire career fighting against. He was suggesting that external validation like draft position matters more than actual results and strategic positioning. This touched on something Brady clearly feels strongly about. The quarterback position is sacred in football. It carries responsibilities and pressures that other positions don't experience. Quarterbacks are held to different standards, face different scrutiny, and are expected to perform at consistently high levels regardless of circumstances. For a running back to question a quarterback's value was bad enough. For a running back to do it based on something as meaningless as draft position was worse. For a running back with nowhere near the marketability or business portfolio of the quarterback he was criticizing was almost laughable. Brady made sure to acknowledge Shedeur's composure during the incident. He pointed out that how Shedeur responded said everything about his character and maturity. Instead of escalating, instead of getting defensive, instead of creating a bigger spectacle, Shedeur remained calm. That composure, Brady explained, is exactly why brands invest in him. That's why companies give him equity deals. That's why his market value keeps rising even when critics try to tear him down. The GOAT also drew connections between Shedeur's approach and successful long-term brand building. Brady had spent years studying what makes athletes marketable beyond their playing careers. He understood that reputation, composure under pressure, and strategic thinking all contribute to lasting value. Shedeur was demonstrating all of those qualities in real time. Brady's decision to speak up also sent a signal to the broader NFL community. When a legend publicly backs a young player, it changes how people perceive that player. It provides a stamp of approval that can't be manufactured or bought. It tells other players, coaches, executives, and fans that this person has earned respect at the highest levels. For Shedeur, having Tom Brady defend him was validation that went beyond any stat line or endorsement check. It meant that the greatest to ever do it saw something special in him. It meant that his approach to handling adversity was being recognized as the right way to operate. It meant that despite all the critics and doubters, someone who actually understood excellence was in his corner. And for Cam Skattebo, Brady's response was a wake-up call delivered by someone whose opinion actually matters in the football world. When the GOAT says you're wrong, you don't really have a counter-argument. You either accept the correction and learn from it, or you double down and look even more foolish. The choice Cam made would become clear in the aftermath. Tom Brady didn't just offer general comments defending Shedeur Sanders. He broke down exactly why Cam Skattebo's statement was wrong with the kind of precision that made him dominant on the football field for over 2 decades. Point by point, fact by fact, Brady dismantled the entire premise of the attack. He started with the draft position argument, since that was the foundation of Cam's comment. Brady explained that draft position hasn't determined player value for years, especially for quarterbacks with significant off-field appeal. The league has changed. The business model has changed. If someone still thinks being picked in the 5th round means you're broke, they're operating on outdated information that has no relevance to modern athlete economics. Then Brady got specific with the numbers. He brought up Shedeur's jersey sales, pointing out that projections showed him competing for the top spot among all NFL players, not just rookies. When more fans want your name on their back than established veterans, Pro Bowlers, and championship winners, that translates directly into revenue. Jersey sales mean merchandise royalties. Merchandise royalties mean consistent income streams regardless of your contract situation. Brady addressed the endorsement portfolio that Shedeur had built before ever taking an NFL snap. He highlighted deals that most rookies couldn't dream of securing, partnerships with major brands that don't invest in just anyone, agreements that included components far more sophisticated than simple payment for promotion. The discussion of equity deals got Brady particularly animated. He explained how Shedeur had learned from his father's career that owning pieces of companies creates wealth differently than collecting paychecks. When you negotiate for percentage ownership instead of flat fees, you're betting on long-term appreciation rather than short-term gratification. That's not a rookie mindset. That's how billionaires think. Brady pointed out that most players don't even know to ask for equity positions in their deals. They see a big number on a contract and sign without considering alternative structures. Shedeur was negotiating like someone who understood that salary was temporary, but ownership could last forever. At his age, with his leverage, making those kinds of moves suggested financial sophistication far beyond typical athletes. The revenue-sharing arrangements in Shedeur's deals also drew Brady's attention. He explained that getting a cut of every sale, every transaction, every piece of business done under your name creates scalable income. Your earning potential grows as the products and companies you're attached to grow. You're not just getting paid once. You're getting paid repeatedly for the same association. Brady made sure to contextualize all of this against Skattebo's own situation. Without being cruel about it, he pointed out the fundamental disconnect in a running back questioning a quarterback's finances. Running backs face a harsh market reality in today's NFL. Their careers are shorter, their contracts are lower, their earning window is compressed. Teams view the position as replaceable, which limits both on-field and off-field value. Quarterbacks, on the other hand, represent the most valuable commodity in professional sports. They command the highest salaries. They attract the biggest endorsement deals. They have the most sustainable long-term earning potential. The position comparison alone made Cam's comment look ridiculous, but Brady went further than just comparing positions. He looked at actual marketability. Shedeur's social media following dwarfs most players in the league. His cultural influence extends beyond football into fashion, lifestyle, and entertainment spaces. His brand partnerships are with corporations that don't make small investments. By contrast, Skattebo's market presence barely registers outside of college football circles. His endorsement portfolio doesn't approach what Shedeur has already secured. His long-term value proposition is significantly more limited based on position, profile, and platform. Brady used a comparison that perfectly captured the absurdity of the situation. He said it was like someone driving an economy car trying to tell someone in a luxury vehicle that they can't afford fuel. The comparison isn't just close. There's no comparison at all. They're operating in completely different financial stratospheres. The methodical nature of Brady's breakdown was reminiscent of how he used to dissect opposing defenses. He identified every weakness in Cam's position and exploited them one by one. He left no room for debate because he came with facts that couldn't be disputed. But perhaps most importantly, Brady addressed what Shedeur's calm response revealed about his character. He explained that in moments of provocation, how you respond tells everyone watching what kind of person you are. Getting defensive or escalating would have created a different narrative. Staying composed demonstrated the maturity and professionalism that major brands look for in their partners. That composure, Brady emphasized, is exactly why Shedeur's value keeps rising even when people try to diminish him. Brands see someone who won't damage their reputation with reckless behavior. They see someone who handles adversity with grace. They see someone worth long-term investment. The entire breakdown served as a masterclass in understanding modern athlete economics. Brady wasn't just defending Shedeur. He was educating everyone watching about how value is actually created and measured in today's sports landscape. Draft position is one data point. Contract salary is another. But total earning potential includes endorsements, equity, revenue shares, social influence, and cultural impact. When you add all of those factors together, Shedeur Sanders isn't just financially secure. He's building generational wealth while still at the beginning of his professional career. Sometimes the most devastating arguments are the ones that simply lay out the facts side by side and let people draw their own conclusions. Tom Brady's comparison between Skattebo and Shedeur Sanders was exactly that kind of argument. It wasn't personal attacks or emotional rhetoric. It was a cold, clear examination of reality that left no room for Cam to hide. Let's start with position value, since that's the foundation of everything in the NFL business model. Running backs have seen their market value decline steadily over the past decade. Teams have realized that the position is relatively replaceable compared to others. You can find productive running backs in later draft rounds. You can rotate multiple backs to reduce wear and tear. You can scheme around running back limitations more easily than other positions. The result is that running back contracts have stagnated while other positions have seen explosive growth. Top running backs now make less than mid-level quarterbacks. The position's earning window has compressed as teams limit carries to preserve durability. Career lengths have shortened as teams move on quickly once a back shows any decline. Quarterbacks occupy the opposite end of the spectrum. They're the most valuable players on every roster. They command the highest salaries by far. They're the faces of franchises and the centerpieces of marketing strategies. When teams find a quarterback they believe in, they pay whatever it takes to keep him. So fundamentally, Skattebo chose to attack someone at a position with vastly superior earning potential while playing a position that the league has systematically devalued. The structural comparison alone made his comment absurd before even examining individual circumstances. But let's examine individual circumstances anyway. Shedeur's pre-NFL earnings from nil deals during college are estimated between $4 and $6 million. Cam's nil earnings, while not publicly detailed, don't approach anywhere near that level. He didn't have the same profile, the same following, or the same marketability. Shedeur's endorsement portfolio includes deals with globally recognized brands like Beats by Dre, Gatorade, and Tom Ford. These aren't regional sponsors or small companies looking for any visibility they can get. These are industry leaders who carefully select their partners based on long-term value projections. Cam's endorsement situation, by comparison, consists of deals that reflect his more limited profile and market reach. Regional brands, smaller companies, deals that pay bills but don't build empires. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's not the same league as what Shedeur has constructed. Social media following tells another part of the story. Shedeur's combined presence across platforms reaches millions of engaged followers who actively seek his content. That kind of audience has direct monetary value through sponsored posts, partnership opportunities, and platform revenue sharing. Every post, every story, every piece of content represents potential income. Cam's social media presence is significantly smaller. His engagement rates and follower counts don't provide the same monetization opportunities. He can't command the same rates for sponsored content because he can't deliver the same reach. Cultural influence extends beyond just numbers. Shedeur has positioned himself at the intersection of sports, fashion, and entertainment. His content resonates with demographics that brands desperately want to access. His style, his personality, his family legacy all combine to create a cultural footprint that transcends football. Cam's cultural influence remains largely confined to college football circles. Outside of Arizona State fans and people who follow running back prospects, his name recognition is limited. He hasn't built the same cross-cultural appeal that generates non-football opportunities. The long-term trajectory comparison might be the most important one. Quarterbacks who perform well in the NFL can earn hundreds of millions over their careers through contracts alone. Add endorsements, media opportunities, and post-playing business ventures, and the ceiling is essentially unlimited. We've seen quarterbacks become billionaires through smart business decisions combined with career longevity. Running backs face a much more constrained path. Even the most successful ones peak earlier and decline faster than other positions. Their earning window is compressed. Their post-playing opportunities are more limited. The career trajectory simply doesn't offer the same financial ceiling. When you lay all of this out, the comparison isn't close. Shedeur operates in a financial stratosphere that Cam can't access based on his position alone, regardless of any individual factors. And when you add the individual factors, the gap becomes even more pronounced. This is why Brady's point landed so effectively. He wasn't being mean for the sake of being mean. He was illustrating a fundamental misunderstanding that Cam had displayed publicly. When you don't understand the terrain, you shouldn't be talking about who's rich and who's poor. You should be listening and learning. The comparison also served as a broader lesson for anyone watching. Don't assume you understand someone's financial situation based on surface-level information. Don't use incomplete data to make definitive claims about someone else's value. And definitely don't try to embarrass someone publicly when you haven't done the research to know what you're actually talking about. Cam Skattebo learned that lesson the hard way, in front of millions of people, with the greatest quarterback ever explaining exactly why he was wrong. That's not a position anyone wants to be in. That's not a moment anyone wants associated with their name. And yet, there it was, undeniable and unforgettable. The moment Tom Brady's response went public, the internet went absolutely crazy. Social media platforms exploded with reactions, commentary, and takes from every corner of the sports world. What had started as a streamer event incident had now become one of the biggest talking points in sports media. Players from across the NFL started weighing in. Teammates, opponents, veterans, rookies, everybody seemed to have an opinion about what went down. The overwhelming consensus supported Brady's position. Players who understood the business side of football nodded along with his points. Players who had seen their own draft positions questioned appreciated him dismantling that narrative. Current quarterbacks particularly resonated with Brady's defense. They understood the pressures Shedeur faced as a young signal caller entering the league. They recognized the unfair scrutiny that comes with the position. And they appreciated a legend standing up for someone who hadn't yet had the chance to prove himself at the professional level. Analysts rushed to break down Shedeur's financial portfolio on air. Shows that usually focused on football strategy were suddenly diving into nil earnings, endorsement structures, and brand partnership valuations. The conversation had shifted from football analysis to financial literacy in the sports world. Numbers that had previously been estimated were now being researched more thoroughly. Media outlets reached out to sources who could confirm or elaborate on Shedeur's various deals. The picture that emerged showed someone even more financially sophisticated than many had assumed. Brand representatives who worked with Shedeur saw an opportunity in the controversy. They started highlighting their partnerships through strategic social media engagement. The attention, even though it stemmed from a negative comment, was ultimately positive for Shedeur's business relationships. Fans who had been defending Shedeur since his college days felt completely validated. They'd been arguing with critics for years about his talent, his potential, and his value. Now they had Tom Brady, the GOAT himself, making their arguments with more credibility and reach than they ever could. The comment sections across platforms became battlegrounds. People debated Brady's points, questioned Cam's judgment, and analyzed every aspect of the situation. Engagement metrics soared. The content was being shared, discussed, and debated at levels that most sports stories never achieve. Memes emerged almost immediately. Screenshots of key moments. Creative edits comparing Cam's statement to Brady's response. Humorous takes on the whole situation. The internet did what the internet does, turning a serious business discussion into entertainment content that spread even further. Sports media outlets scrambled to cover every angle. Articles were published within hours analyzing what had happened. Podcasts dedicated entire episodes to breaking down the situation. Video content creators produced reaction videos that generated millions of views. And through all of this, one person remained notably quiet. Cam Skattebo didn't offer any follow-up comments. He didn't try to defend his original statement. He didn't argue with Brady's points or push back on the criticism. He simply went silent. That silence spoke volumes. Because when Tom Brady publicly corrects you about something, there really aren't many options for response. You can't argue with his credibility. You can't claim he doesn't understand football or business. You can't suggest that his opinion doesn't matter. He's earned the right to speak on these subjects through decades of unprecedented success. Cam's only real choice was to let the storm pass and hope people eventually moved on to other topics. But the internet has a long memory, especially when someone gets publicly embarrassed by a legend. That moment will follow him. Every time his name comes up, someone will remember. Every time he's interviewed, the question might come. Every time he tries to position himself as a financial authority on anything, this incident will be referenced. The aftermath also demonstrated something important about modern media cycles. What happens in a room doesn't stay in a room anymore. Every comment can become content. Every interaction can go viral. Every attempt to make yourself look good at someone else's expense can backfire spectacularly. Cam probably thought his comment would make him look clever or alpha in the moment. He thought calling out Shedeur would establish some kind of dominance or credibility. Instead, it exposed his ignorance and invited correction from someone far more credible than himself. The social media explosion served as both judgment and jury. Millions of people weighed in with their opinions. The consensus was clear and overwhelming. Cam was wrong. Brady was right. Shedeur handled it perfectly. For Shedeur himself, the aftermath was almost entirely positive. His composure during the initial incident showed maturity. Brady's defense validated his value. The widespread support demonstrated his popularity. Even a negative moment had been transformed into a positive narrative about his character and worth. His jersey sales likely benefited from all the attention. His social media following probably grew as curious observers wanted to see who this person was that Brady defended so strongly. His brand value may have actually increased because of an attack meant to diminish him. Sometimes the best revenge is simply success, and sometimes that success is accelerated by failed attempts to tear you down. This entire situation wasn't really just about Skattebo making an ignorant comment. It wasn't just about Tom Brady defending a young quarterback, and it wasn't just about Shedeur Sanders' financial portfolio. What this moment really revealed was how dramatically the NFL economy has shifted and how many people still don't understand the new landscape. For decades, athlete value was primarily determined by on-field performance and contract size. You played well, you got paid more. Simple math. Draft position mattered because it determined your initial contract ceiling. Higher picks got more guaranteed money. Lower picks got less. The hierarchy was clear and straightforward. But the modern NFL operates on completely different principles. On-field performance still matters, but it's no longer the only factor in determining an athlete's value. Social media presence, brand partnerships, cultural influence, and business acumen now play equally important roles in an athlete's total earning potential. Players like Shedeur Sanders represent this new generation of athlete entrepreneurs. They don't just play football and collect paychecks. They build brands, negotiate equity positions, create content, and develop multiple revenue streams that exist independently of their playing contracts. This shift has been accelerated by several factors. Nil rights changed college athletics forever, allowing players to monetize their popularity before turning professional. Social media created direct connections between athletes and fans, eliminating the need for traditional media gatekeepers. The creator economy demonstrated that anyone with an audience could generate income through content and partnerships. Athletes who understand these dynamics are positioning themselves for financial success regardless of their playing career trajectory. If they have a long, productive career, the additional income streams multiply their earnings. If injuries cut their career short, they have alternative revenue sources to fall back on. This is exactly what Shedeur represents. His on-field abilities are real, but they're just one piece of his value proposition. His social media following, his brand partnerships, his equity positions, and his business relationships all contribute to a financial picture that looks nothing like traditional rookie expectations. The old thinking that draft position equals value simply doesn't apply anymore. A fifth-round pick with elite marketability, sophisticated business partnerships, and massive social following can easily out-earn a first-round pick who only focuses on their playing contract. Skattebo's comment reflected the old thinking. He looked at draft position and made assumptions without considering any of the other factors that determine value in today's landscape. That's not an uncommon mistake among players and fans who haven't kept up with how dramatically things have changed. Brady's response was essentially a public education session about new economic realities. He explained how modern athletes build wealth differently than previous generations. He highlighted the importance of off-field positioning and business development. He demonstrated that understanding these dynamics is essential for anyone who wants to speak credibly about athlete value. The endorsement market has evolved too. Companies no longer just want athletes to wear their products and appear in commercials. They want authentic partnerships with people who can create content, drive social media engagement, and connect with younger demographics in meaningful ways. Athletes who can deliver those things command premium rates and more favorable deal structures. Athletes who can't are left with traditional endorsement arrangements that pay less and offer less upside. Shedeur's deals with Beats, Gatorade, and Tom Ford reflect this evolution. These aren't just sponsorships where he wears products and smiles for cameras. These are partnerships that likely include content creation requirements, social media integration, and potentially equity components that align his interests with the brand's long-term success. The jersey sales phenomenon also illustrates changing dynamics. Fans don't just buy jerseys of their favorite team's best player anymore. They buy jerseys of players they feel connected to through social media, content, and personal brand. Shedeur's massive following translates directly into merchandise sales regardless of his on-field statistics. Revenue-sharing agreements in merchandise sales mean that players with higher sales get proportionally higher income. This creates a situation where social media popularity can directly impact financial returns. A player with 10 million followers might generate more merchandise income than a more talented player with only 1 million followers. The broader lesson from this situation is that financial literacy in professional sports has become essential. Players who don't understand these dynamics will leave money on the table. Players who operate on old assumptions about draft position and contract value will be surprised when athletes they underestimate significantly out-earn them. This is why Tom Brady's intervention was so valuable. He used his platform and credibility to educate not just Skattebo, but everyone watching. He demonstrated that the greatest players understand both the game on the field and the game off of it. For young players entering the league, the message was clear. Draft position is just your starting point. What you build around that starting point determines your actual value. Social media matters. Brand development matters. Business relationships matter. Equity positions matter. The modern NFL rewards complete packages, not just athletic ability. Looking ahead, the question becomes what kind of trajectory Shedeur Sanders is actually on. If his pre-NFL positioning is any indication, we might be watching the early stages of one of the most successful athlete business stories ever. Consider what he's already accomplished before playing a meaningful professional game. Multiple major brand partnerships secured, nil earnings in the millions, social media following in the millions, equity positions in significant deals, revenue-sharing arrangements that pay continuously, and now, public backing from the greatest quarterback in NFL history. That foundation is extraordinary. Most players spend years trying to build what Shedeur already has established. Most never achieve even a fraction of his off-field positioning regardless of how long their careers last. If Shedeur performs well on the football field, which is obviously still the primary focus, his existing advantages will multiply dramatically. Success at the quarterback position opens endorsement doors that other positions can't access. Quarterbacks who win become the faces of leagues and decades. They transcend sports and enter broader cultural conversations. His Cleveland Browns situation provides an interesting platform. The franchise has been searching for a franchise quarterback for decades. If Shedeur can be the one who finally delivers consistent success, the regional and national attention would be enormous. Cleveland's loyal and passionate fanbase would embrace him completely. A successful tenure in Cleveland could lead to contract extensions worth over $100 million. His existing endorsement relationships would likely expand. New partnerships would emerge. His jersey sales would remain strong or potentially increase. The combination of playing contract earnings and off-field income could push his total career earnings into territory that most athletes never approach. We're not talking about comfortable wealth. We're talking about generational, empire-building, $100 million territory. But even if on-field success proves elusive, Shedeur's positioning provides significant protection. His existing revenue streams don't depend entirely on winning games. Brands partner with him because of his audience, his image, and his cultural relevance. Those factors can persist regardless of team performance. Many athletes face financial difficulty after their playing careers end because they depended entirely on salary without building alternative income sources. Shedeur won't have that problem. His equity positions will continue generating returns. His brand relationships can evolve into different arrangements. His platform will allow him to transition into media, business, or whatever direction interests him. The Tom Brady endorsement adds another layer to his future potential. Having the GOAT publicly support you creates credibility that can be leveraged for years. Future business partners, investors, and collaborators will remember that Tom Brady stood up for Shedeur when someone tried to diminish his value. That kind of cosign opens doors that might otherwise remain closed. It suggests to people in positions of power that Shedeur is someone worth taking seriously, someone who has earned respect from the highest levels of his profession. Media opportunities will likely present themselves as well. Shedeur's combination of NFL quarterback status, famous family background, and business savvy makes him attractive for broadcast, podcast, and content creation ventures. If his playing career goes well, those opportunities will multiply. If his playing career is average, they'll still exist based on his profile. The Sanders family brand provides additional runway. Deion Sanders remains one of the most recognizable figures in football. His coaching career at Colorado draws constant attention. The family narrative, with multiple siblings involved in football at various levels, creates ongoing storylines that media loves to cover. Shedeur can leverage that family brand while simultaneously building his own distinct identity. He's already done this effectively during his college career. He's associated with his father's success without being completely defined by it. That balance will serve him well as he establishes himself professionally. Philanthropy and community involvement represent another dimension of potential future activity. Athletes with significant platforms and resources often find fulfillment in giving back. Shedeur's positioning would allow him to create foundations, fund initiatives, and make meaningful contributions to causes he cares about. Business ownership beyond endorsements is another likely direction. Athletes increasingly move from promoting products to owning companies. Shedeur's understanding of equity and his existing business relationships position him to become an investor or entrepreneur in ways that could generate significant wealth. The ceiling for someone with his combination of advantages is essentially unlimited. If everything goes right, both on and off the field, we could be looking at someone who becomes one of the wealthiest athletes in any sport within the next decade or two. Even if only some things go right, his floor is still incredibly high compared to typical NFL players. His worst-case scenario is still financial security that most people never achieve. What started as an awkward comment on a streamer show actually reinforced something important about Shedeur's trajectory. When people attack you based on misinformation, and the greatest player ever corrects them publicly, your value actually increases. The narrative becomes one of vindication rather than vulnerability. Shedeur handled the moment perfectly, and that perfect handling contributed to his already strong reputation for composure and maturity. Every significant moment in sports culture carries lessons for those paying attention. What happened between Skattebo, Shedeur Sanders, and Tom Brady teaches several important things that extend far beyond just these three individuals. The first and most obvious lesson is to do your research before speaking publicly. Cam made a definitive claim about someone's financial situation without actually knowing the facts. He assumed that draft position equaled bank account balance without considering any of the other factors that determine modern athlete value. That assumption made him look foolish when the actual facts emerged. He wasn't wrong by a small margin. He wasn't making a reasonable point that happened to be slightly off. He was completely, fundamentally wrong in a way that couldn't be defended or explained away. In an era where information is freely available to anyone with internet access, there's no excuse for making bold claims without verification. A few minutes of research would have shown Cam that Shedeur's financial situation was nothing like what he implied. But he didn't take those few minutes. He assumed he knew and proceeded to embarrass himself. The second lesson involves understanding your own position before attacking someone else's. Cam plays running back, a position that the NFL has systematically devalued over the past decade. His earning potential, both on field and off field, is significantly more limited than a quarterback's. His market profile doesn't approach what Shedeur has built. From that position, attacking a quarterback's financial status was structurally problematic even before considering individual circumstances. It's like someone in a small apartment mocking someone in a mansion for their real estate decisions. The comparison doesn't favor the person making the criticism. The third lesson relates to how you handle attacks directed at you. Shedeur's calm response showed remarkable maturity for someone his age. He didn't escalate. He didn't get defensive. He didn't create additional drama that would have extended the negative attention. Instead, he stayed composed, let the moment pass, and allowed others to come to his defense. That composure actually strengthened his position rather than weakening it. Brands and partners watching the situation saw someone who handles adversity with grace. That's a valuable characteristic that justifies the investments they've made in him. The fourth lesson involves the power of having advocates in high places. Shedeur didn't ask Tom Brady to defend him. He didn't need that defense to survive the situation. But having the GOAT publicly correct someone who attacked you provides validation that can't be purchased or manufactured. This happened because Shedeur had positioned himself as someone worth defending. His conduct, his character, and his career had earned respect from people at the highest levels. When someone tried to diminish him unfairly, those people felt compelled to respond. The fifth lesson concerns the permanence of public statements in the digital age. Cam's comment will follow him forever. It's recorded. It's been shared millions of times. It exists in the permanent internet archive where nothing truly disappears. Future employers, partners, and fans will be able to find this moment with a simple search. Every time Cam achieves something notable, someone will probably reference the time Tom Brady had to educate him about basic financial literacy. That's not a reputation enhancement. The sixth lesson involves generational shifts in how athletes build wealth. What Cam didn't understand represents what many people don't understand about modern athlete economics. The rules have changed. The strategies have evolved. The opportunities have expanded. Players who recognize these changes and adapt their approaches will thrive financially regardless of their playing career outcomes. Players who cling to old understandings will be surprised and potentially disadvantaged. The seventh lesson relates to the quarterback position specifically. Quarterbacks occupy a unique space in professional football and in sports business more broadly. They're the most visible, most valuable, and most scrutinized players on any roster. Challenging a quarterback's value from any other position requires extraordinary circumstances to be credible. The structural advantages that quarterbacks enjoy, both in contracts and in endorsement opportunities, make them fundamentally different from other positions in terms of earning potential. The eighth lesson involves the importance of long-term thinking versus short-term gratification. Cam probably thought his comment would provide immediate social capital. It would make him look clever or tough or alpha in the moment. What he didn't consider was the long-term consequences of being publicly wrong about something easily verifiable. The short-term benefit, if any existed, was vastly outweighed by the long-term reputational damage. The ninth and final lesson is perhaps the most important. Truth eventually surfaces. You can make claims, spread narratives, and attempt to shape perception, but reality has a way of asserting itself. Shedeur's actual financial situation was always what it was, regardless of what Cam said about it. The facts existed independently of the claims. When someone with credibility decided to illuminate those facts publicly, the claims collapsed instantly. This should give pause to anyone considering making bold public statements about things they don't actually know. The truth is out there, and someone with more information than you might decide to share it at the worst possible moment for your reputation. Cam Skattebo learned these lessons the hard way. Whether he absorbs them and grows from the experience remains to be seen. What started as a comment meant to diminish someone became one of the most educational moments about modern athlete economics we've seen in years. Cam Skattebo tried to embarrass Shedeur Sanders and ended up embarrassing himself in front of millions when Tom Brady stepped in with facts that couldn't be disputed. The numbers told the real story. Pre-NFL earnings in the millions, major brand partnerships with global companies, equity positions and revenue-sharing arrangements that most players never negotiate, social media influence that translates directly into income, a business empire already built before his professional career truly began. Shedeur didn't need to defend himself with words. His portfolio spoke for him. His composure demonstrated exactly why brands invest in him. His response showed the maturity that separates sustainable success from fleeting attention. And somewhere, Cam Skattebo sat quietly, unable to argue with the GOAT's assessment, watching his comment become a cautionary tale about speaking without knowledge. The question now isn't whether Shedeur Sanders is broke. That's been thoroughly answered. The question is how far his trajectory will take him. Super Bowl champion, business mogul, billionaire? Based on what we've seen, betting against him seems unwise. What do you think happens next?